Hey, how you doing? Welcome. It's FreightWaves Now, Thursday edition style, coming at you live today on our cyclical cycle, trending down a little bit in terms of what volumes are showing, in the, again, weekly cyclical cycle. Today, what we try to have each and every week is a special market expert. Sometimes it might be oil. Sometimes it might be specifically talking about trucks itself. Sometimes it might be, some economics. Today, however, it is air cargo. That's right, we have Jesse Cohen bringing to you a little bit of analysis of what is happening right now and how can you plan right now for air cargo. All right, in the meantime, one of the familiar faces is Nick Austin bringing us the weather around the U.S. Let's see what is happening.
Hello, Chad.
Hey, Nick. Good to see you again today.
Good to see you too. We have more winter weather to talk about.
Good.
Considering it's still winter, that shouldn't be a big surprise. It's almost spring, but that doesn't mean the snow out west is even going to stop in the spring. But the west, still a big problem, especially out in the Sierra Nevada and Eastern California into the Metro Reno, Lake Tahoe areas,
Yes.
I-80, US 50, troubles on those roads, probably closures once again. The snow probably won't be as heavy there as the last few days, but it is still snowing. And that's on top of heaps and heaps and heaps of snow that they've already had, just a ton of it so far this season. So be really careful in those areas.
Much.
Yeah, the foothills of the Sierras and those lower slopes could see some more flooding from heavy rains that they had recently. And you can see there'll be just scattered snow showers all across the Rockies. Some of the heaviest stuff will probably be over northwestern Colorado and over the Wyoming state line, but it'll be heavy in parts of the Cascades as well. And there might be some kind of pockets of freezing rain, which won't be good because that'll cause icy conditions on some of the interstates. So those are the big trouble spots. And we also have some snow that's been developing out in the Midwest, the Plain States from Nebraska all the way over later today and into tonight over into Illinois and parts of the Ohio River Valley. So we're going to go to the road conditions right now, and we'll show you the forecast road conditions as we go through the next several hours.
One of my
into
favorite
tonight.
new features.
It's a great new feature. Now there'll be some areas of rain mixed in with the snow and the freezing drizzle too. So you see some roads are in blue, which just means they'll be wet. Sometimes they're going back and forth from wet to the pink colors, which are more snowy and slushy. So it's just going to be kind of a big mess. I mean, this is going to be from Omaha, Des Moines, Iowa, all the way over and towards Indianapolis, and later on tonight into Cincinnati, Louisville, areas like that, over a big stretch of about 700 miles.
Yeah, Omaha, somewhere in middle America.
That's right. So be really careful on those roads. There will be icy spots on some of the interstates in that huge swath from Omaha and Des Moines all the way over the Ohio River Valley. So some trouble there. The rest of the country is fairly quiet. Except for that it was unusually cold in many areas of the South this morning. It was down to freezing all the way to the Gulf Coast in some areas. But the South is going to warm up over the next few days. So, but be really careful on all those snowy and icy spots out there.
Okay, the South will warm up again.
That's right.
All right. That is great. And now we are bringing to you live right now what is happening in air cargo. Jesse Cohen, welcome to FreightWaves Now.
So thanks very much, Chad. It's great to be here in Chattanooga. So coming up at the end of this month, about 3 weeks away, on March 31st, we begin the International Air Transportation Association, the official summer schedule that nearly all international airlines follow.
Okay.
So this is a schedule that's largely driven on the passenger side by passenger demand. You've got much more passenger travel that starts, when kids get out of school and as families have vacation in the summer. So airlines typically, the passenger airlines ramp up capacity in a big way.
Okay, so let me ask a question if I could. My question is, so we're talking about air cargo, but I think maybe some people don't realize that like passenger planes play into air cargo. How so?
Absolutely. So basically passenger aircraft, especially your wide-body passenger aircraft, your 747, your 777, 767, 787, those all handle about 2/3 of that belly capacity under your feet can be filled by cargo. The rest is your passenger baggage. So generally speaking, between 50 and 60% of the world's trade is moved in bellies of passenger airplanes, and the remainder is in freighter aircraft. Some of it's moved by companies like FedEx or UPS or DHL. Others is moved by major freighter airlines like Cargolux, Korean Airlines, Airbridge Cargo.
I bet a lot of people don't realize that. 50 to 60% moved in the bellies of large passenger
That's right.
planes.
And narrow bodies have a role in this as well, but generally speaking, it's a lot easier to move large volumes of cargo. 10 to 20 tons of cargo can move in many of the passenger bellies that are out there today. A lot of good capacity for cargo, indeed.
Okay. And so what have you got brought up here for us to look? Oh, first of all, it's this chart.
So let me talk to this slide a little bit. So what we've taken is basically 4 years of data on the number of flights, and this is really the flights from 2015, 2018, looking at it by month and just sort of averaging it out.
Okay.
The red line is the average number of flights per month from the US to international points. And what you can see here is in the summer, starting April, May, certainly as you get into June and July, big increase in the number of flights. And then they start to tail off in October, November, and December. So you have this bubble here, mild bubble. And at the same time, the blue line really represents the amount of cargo tonnage that's being put on those flights. And it's, you know, you have a bit of a peak in March, and then it sags a little bit. And there's a dip there at the end of August and September, and it then picks back up. So here you have this sort of growing gap. And what you have here is you have an increase in supply, a decrease in demand. That creates an imbalance, and that creates an opportunity for a smart buyer who's a regular buyer of air cargo to negotiate some better pricing during this period of time, particularly, you know, in a market which might have more of that capacity.
So even though we're looking at 4-year average and we're looking at some seasonal patterns, the way that this plays into things right now is planning.
So you can basically, you know, it takes time to have discussions on, you know, if you've got contract pricing, if you've got pricing that's already been negotiated, it's going to take you some time to try to negotiate something a little bit better. So there's going to be some back and forth in it. You're going to need to do some research. You're going to need to look at the kind of volumes that you might be able to support a carrier with or support a forwarder with, and then go out and talk to the various players in the marketplace. And that really leads into the next slide, because a lot of this increase is really to Europe. You have a little bit of increase to Asia, a little bit of increases in some other parts of the world, but Europe is really where you see this surge in capacity. So here,
the U.S. average monthly flights to Europe. Okay.
Right. So here you have the winter schedule in blue. You know, so here you have the number of flights in a month that are going from the U.S. to Austria, Belgium, Denmark, and here you have larger lines for France and Germany, and certainly for the U.K., which is really the biggest market that American travelers go to. And then in red, you have the summer capacity. So you're taking the winter months with less flying against the summer months with a lot more flying. And you can see just, you know, the red versus the blue. And it's a significant increase. And the gold colored line, it charts the percent on the right of how much of an increase that is. So, you know, generally speaking, you know, you have, you know, for a large market like the UK, it's between a 15 and 30% increase in the number of flights to London, to Manchester, to Glasgow, and other points in the UK. To Germany, it's a little bit more. And again, that's going to Frankfurt, and Munich, Dusseldorf, and Berlin, France, you know, Paris for the most part. And then in other cases, you can see there's very, very significant increases, over 100% in some of these markets. These are really the tourist markets that are very, very slow in the winter and have a lot of opportunity in the summer. So if you know where you're shipping and you've got regular patterns, then you can begin to use this kind of information to, you know, chart out your negotiation strategy. So you can basically do a number of things. So for major markets like Frankfurt, major markets like Amsterdam, where there's a lot of capacity and the increase is 10, 20, 30%, you have the opportunity to ask for lower rates. And you may be able to secure some lower rates, some short-term rates. You can either do that in the spot market or try to negotiate something longer term.
Okay, I have a question. When securing air freight, are there different rates in terms of using like a dedicated air cargo that only does that versus using extra passenger space? Can you secure one or the other? Is one cheaper than the other? Can you play them off of each other?
So you have some ability to negotiate the main deck rates, freighter rates, using belly rates. But in general, you're going to find that freighters will accommodate certain kinds of business that the passenger airlines cannot. They cannot put them in the bellies. There's dangerous goods, there's oversized pieces, and the passenger airlines can't compete for that. So the prices on that are going to be a bit stickier. Really, the freighter folks will compete in the bellies of the freighter against the bellies of the passenger flights. So there may be some give and take there with the freighter operators, but in general, especially to Europe, you'll find that belly rates on passenger airlines are cheaper.
Okay.
So I think the other opportunity that we have, you have a lot of secondary airports, like Manchester in the UK, you have Barcelona in Spain, and those airports go up a lot in the summer, and there may be opportunities. If you have time, if you have an extra day, extra 2 days to move your cargo, you can sometimes get very, very competitive rates if you're moving your traffic through one of those points. So you fly US to Manchester and truck it back to London. Oftentimes the airline will absorb the trucking expense back, and you can get yourself some additional savings in that base.
So essentially, what we have in the summertime, because of increased tourism and passenger flights, you have less capacity. Right? Like
you have more capacity and less demand. Typically, it's a little bit slower.
Oh.
So you have more capacity in the belly, and you have about the same capacity in the freighters.
Okay.
So because you have more supply and less demand, you create an imbalance, and typically that sets up a buyer's market.
Oh, I see. Okay, so it works that way. Yes. All right. Well, thank you, Jesse. Thanks for that analysis. Did you have one other thing to add?
Yeah, so I wanted to add one additional point, and actually I'm very excited to announce that starting in a few weeks, we're going to have a new sonar chart dedicated to air cargo capacity. We've procured some official airline guide data, OAG data, that's a well-known source in the industry. And we're looking forward to being able to portray some of this information in sonar and be able to talk to it on an ongoing basis. So we're, again, very, very excited about that.
When does that due?
So we're working on it right now with our data science team. I would expect in a couple of weeks.
All right. Well, fantastic. That is exciting news, and glad to break that to you with what is happening right now on FreightWaves Now. So if you are planning ahead, you're a shipper, you can see some of this, you can use some of this data. Data is the new oil. Data is what is happening in the freight logistics industry. It is how we are shaping our decision making with transparency and visibility. So that is why we are bringing you market experts each and every day on FreightWaves Now to help you plan better with your operations in whatever supply chain capacity it may be. So thanks for tuning in today here on Thursday. We will be coming back to you at 4 o'clock on Friday as well, talking to you about giving you an overview of the week, looking at, again, of course, what is happening right now, and anticipating things into the weekend. In the meantime, you keep sharing the love on Twitter if you can, and check us out on FreightWaves.com, and we will see you soon. So don't worry, be happy.